Number 495. He leadeth me. 495.
Good evening, and welcome to the service tonight. I don't know if y'all thought about the last song that you just sang. His faithful follower I would be. And even if he leads you through the dark valley, are you still going to follow? Anyway, so I want to welcome each one here and thank you for coming to hear a few reports on the best Bible school you can go to. Um, and I don't just say that just because I do feel like it is, and I haven't been to all the other Bible schools, so I guess I shouldn't say I know, but it is a very good place, a very good place. So I was there as maintenance, and I got to interact with the students pretty much as I wanted to. Um, I was probably the only person, actually, I was the only person that had free reign in the whole place, really. Girls' dorm is obviously off limits to everybody, but maintenance guy can knock on the door and say, "Maintenance," and go in. But obviously there's restrictions there as well. And that was actually probably my worst place to go. I just didn't like to go to the girls' dorm just because I don't know, I didn't really belong there. Anyway, but I had a lot of fun there, interacting with the students, being involved with classes. And what maintenance looks like there is about what you might expect. There's not a whole lot to do, but yet there's dryer breaks down here. There's maybe a heating element goes out on this dryer. You need to take the trash out. You need to clean the incinerator out. There's a light bulb that's bad. Some for doors not closing right. The hinges on this one door got busted off, or the door jamb got knocked out, and it's just, you never know what you're going to do. But it was a very laid back time for me. I got to spend a lot of time with my family, which was very good. Then Janelle did, she did some laundry for some of the guys, the deans, and ordering food. Once a week there was a truck that came in, and she was supposed to be the one ordering the food for that. I don't know, just kind of general housekeeping maybe. Trying to think what else there is, and I'm not going to try and get into a whole lot of the classes and the flow of things, but overall it is a very good place, and visitors are very welcome. But there is no overnighting there for visitors, and visitors are expected to follow the dress code. And the handbook really. Don't come there with your big loud music and whatever else. But visitors are very welcome there. Anyway, that's kind of, I guess, my part of it, and I'm going to turn it over to, I don't know, Kyle or Brielle or Trevor, however that all works out. So anyway, I'm excited to hear their side of it as well.
So I guess I'll just start off by saying how I enjoyed it. It was actually a really good time. The first week, though, I have to admit, I hated it. I just wanted to come home. I did not like it. Pretty much right when you get there, you're thrown out of your comfort zone. Like, you have to interact with so many new people, and that is not at all me. And so I was way out of my comfort zone. I did not enjoy it at all. But then after the first week, it just flew by. Like, the whole term, I don't know how 6 weeks can move that fast. Like, it felt like I left and then I just came back. What else with that? Yeah, it's just a fun time. For first term, my first class was Christian Family Living by Marion Miller. That was a really good class. It's actually the book we're going through for small groups. That's the book we went through. Or we didn't go through it, but parts of it. I really enjoyed that class because it was really practical. He went over like very practical points for, well, obviously Christian family, and one point that he brought out was like the 4 basic needs of man are acceptance, identity, security, and purpose. And if we don't find those in Christ, then like you are missing something. And yeah, that was one point from that class I really enjoyed. Then my second class in term 1 was Sermon on the Mount by Adam Overholt. That was pretty much just studying in depth the Sermon on the Mount. We went through the different passages and different portions of it, and I really enjoyed that. The being like salt and light in your community and just looking for ways you can help. And then Biblical Basis for Missions by Julian Nisley. That was a really good class where he brought out one point actually was doing stuff instead of just talking about it in a mission mindset, where we often, or at least I do, I'm like, oh, I should do this, or that would be cool if we did this, but not just saying that, but actually acting on that. And I really loved that class. And also, I like how he brought out in your community, you can be like a light in your community and a missionary to the people around you, and just looking for ways to help others. And first term, I guess like the power of prayer, just, I don't know, it was really brought out to me. And there were a couple times, it was just really powerful, where I was in a car ride. We had gone to a gym like 2.5 hours away or something. And my carload, we stopped at a gas station, and we had stopped the car. We were getting gas. And then we had realized that we parked on the wrong side. The gas tank was on the other side. We didn't know which side of the vehicle it was on. And we tried to start the car, and it did not work. It did not turn on. It was actually Trevor's vehicle. And we kept trying and trying and trying. And Trevor had given me his extra key, and I gave the driver that, and we tried that. That was not working. Then all of a sudden, one of the girls in my car ride was like, why don't we pray about it? And we prayed, and we had stopped and prayed. And then he tried to start the car, and the first time it started. And it was just really powerful. And then we had been talking to Trevor, and he said that they had been praying too. So that was really powerful to me. And also another thing, there was a group that had gone to the bluffs, and they had went down on the ledge. I don't know, some of you probably know where that is. And they had been, I think, like taking pictures or something. And she had her phone in her lap, and somehow it just like slipped down, and it fell off the edge, and they couldn't find it. So some of the guys went down there and were like searching around in the rocks and pretty much bushes down there. And they had, they started praying like up where the girls were. They had stayed up, they started praying, and they had been calling the phone before. And right after they prayed, they called again, and the guys found it. It was like between two rocks, like perfectly fine, no scratches on it at all. And they found it and they brought it back up to her. So yeah, that was, and just other times where you're discouraged or somebody's struggling with something, just you stopped and prayed, and it was just so powerful to me. Then second term, my first class was Spirit, Fruit, and Gifts by Javen Miller. That was a really good class. Just understanding our different gifts and how that motivates us to do the things we love, or why we're motivated to do the things we do. And also, just interacting with others. Sometimes there can be problems, but between people, and if you like step back and look at their gifts or like their spiritual gifts, it kind of makes sense sometimes why two people could not be getting along or whatever. And then one thing that kept being brought up in that class is being faithful in the little things. And the choices I make now will impact the rest of my life. And I really like those points in that class. Then Christian Stewardship by Dathan Stoltzfus. And that we talked about being wise stewards of not just our money, but also our time. That was a good class. And my last class was Themes from New Testament Women by Janelle Glick. That was pretty much, we just did an overview of all the women in the New Testament and what all they did. And we went through the book Veiled Glory by Elaine Yoder. That was a good book. And one class, or one day, that I really enjoyed was Jesus Meets Us in Our Pain and Shame. And she had like an illustration where one of the girls got up and put like where something negative was said, and they put like a sheet over her and like all the stuff that was piled up. And then light was spoken to her, like life was spoken to her. Then they like took the sheets off one by one. I don't know. It's kind of, foggy or hard to explain, but just that illustration was really powerful to me. And that was a good class with obviously all girls, but yeah. And in that book, it talked about how God has some characteristics of a woman, which was like a new thought to me, where he has like more of a sensitive heart. Not that he like looks like a woman or whatever, but I don't know. He has more characteristics of it. And then, I forgot. Probably my favorite thing about all CBS was choir. First term, it was by Cliff Stoltzfus, and second term was by Wendell Glick. And that, just singing for an hour, that whole time, that was just my favorite part, where everybody was just on fire to sing. And but I definitely recommend going. It is very hard, but it is so rewarding. It's definitely harder than I was expecting it to be. Not like the workload, but just more the, I don't know, interacting with people and all that new stuff. And for me, I like knew nobody pretty much. So it was hard, but it was a really good time. And I definitely recommend for anybody that wants to go.
So, I only went for one term, which is 3 weeks. So wasn't there quite as long, but it's definitely enough to get the feel of the place and really dig in. Probably gonna say some of the same stuff as Braille, since we're both first timers there. But first few days you just want to crawl into a hole and have nothing to do with anybody. There's 50 or 60 other people there that you don't know, and it's really overwhelming. But get to know your dormies and um, get into the regular rhythm of the weekly, daily life, and really started to settle down. So, yeah. My classes, I took James by Lee Isley. Basically, just an in-depth study of James. We talked about sin and temptation and where it comes from, how to deal with it. So that was really eye-opening. I also took Christian Evidences, taught by Tim Weaver. So that was a little bit more of an apologetics class. So we learned how to prove authenticity of the Old and the New Testaments, like just purely fact based, nothing spiritual, just facts and historical documents. So that was really eye opening to me, because I always just accepted it by faith that it was God's word, but we can go back to the facts and see that it is real. Something else I took away from there is that Christianity is based on historical events, not just ethical teachings, like a lot of other religions are, like Buddhism, Confucianism, Islam. They're all based on ethical teachings by their leaders, not based on history or historical events. So that really blessed me. And then I took Mighty Men of God, which was taught by Dathan Salsfus. This was definitely my favorite. It was a men's class, so all guys in there, and we really got to sit down and talk about what a real man should look like. So yes, he should have the warrior side, the tough, strong, and the leader side. But he also needs to have a tender, loving, compassionate side to him. So that really blessed me and opened my eyes to what God wants for me. So I'll just go over a little bit over the kind of the daily life. Rising bell is at 6:30. You don't have to get up, but I guess technically you're probably supposed to. Breakfast is at 7. That's optional, so you can sleep in all the way up until 7:30 or so, till you have to get ready for chapel. Chapel is at 8. So, and that is mandatory. That's not optional, unless you're sick or something. Chapel was about 15 minutes. So then we had personal devotions time from about 8:15 to about 8:35, and that was also helpful for me, setting aside part of my day to have my devotions and just talk with God. So that was one thing I decided I would try to really keep up when I came back, and so far it's been a lot better. First class period was at 8:45, and every class is about 65 minutes long, with about a 5-minute break in between classes. So right after first class was chorus, and that one was actually about an hour. And then there's one more class period between chorus and lunch, and then lunch was about 12:10, and lasted until about 1:10. So often that was a time to play volleyball before you went to your next class, or you could go do homework or sleep, or whatever you wanted to, basically. Third class was at 1:15, and then afternoon chapel, which is Bible reading and prayer, was at 2:20. Fourth class, and the last class of the day, was at 3:10, and it lasted until about 4:10. And then just all around free time was 4:15 to 5:30. So there again, volleyball, or you could do your weekly job, your daily job, or whatever you want to do. and then supper was at 5:30 until about 6:10. So there was that. Study hall was at 6:15, and that lasts about an hour and a half. Here's what I heard from some of my uh, friends, is that you're only supposed to, so you only have 3 classes. You're supposed to have a half hour's worth of homework from each class. So you should have about an hour and a half worth of homework. Let's just say something wasn't adding up. And it wasn't just me either. So, just throwing that out there. And then evening chapel is at 8 o'clock, and that usually lasts until about 8:45 or so. Then you could talk, or you go down and play board games or whatnot. But you had to be in your separate guys and girls dorms by 9:30. And that was when we had dorm sharing. You just kind of gather around and you talk about whatever you want to. So that was also pretty fun. Just 6 guys sitting there talking about whatever they wanted to. Got a little interesting sometimes, but it was fun. Definitely would recommend going. It's difficult. It's growing. But it's a really good experience.
Okay. So my start was probably a little different than Kyle and Brielle's. I had gone there last year and I ended up staying 12 weeks. But this year I only went for 6 weeks, went for first and second. And yeah, they showed up and didn't really know anybody, but I showed up and pretty much knew everybody. So that was really nice. I don't know. Those 6 weeks were probably some of like the best that I've had in my life so far. Really growing, really just like digging in deep, to learn things about myself, to learn things about others, and develop relationships. I'm not going to go over all my classes. I'm just going to go over my favorite ones. They were all really good, but there was just a couple that stood out for me. Spiritual Disciplines by Javen Miller. We talked about discipline, and I think a few of like the biggest things that stood out to me was there's a verse in I think it's 2 Timothy 4:10, or don't quote me on that. I'm not for sure on that one, but it basically has the idea, and it says, "Discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness," and that just like I don't know, it really jumped out to me. And I've heard he really brought out the point that if we want to be godly, we have to discipline ourselves. Like we almost can't be godly without disciplining ourselves. And so it's just a really big challenge for me to be disciplined. And also at the end of that class, he had us write up an action plan. So basically, it was just a couple of the disciplines, and he had us be very specific with what we were going to do when we get home, how we're going to do it, and setting aside time and all those things. So yeah, it was really good for me to be intentional about, coming home and changing things that I wanted to be more disciplined in. And then he also taught the Spirit, Fruit, and Gifts class, and Brielle already talked a little bit about it. But yeah, that was a really good class to just learn people's motivations, learn my own motivations. And two of the things that kind of stood out to me were he talked about the characteristics and the misuses of the different gifts. And while he was like listing off it, I could figure out my gift by the misuses that I've seen in my own life when he was talking about them. And I could also see it in other people that I know. I could see their gift through those things. And so that was really, really interesting and eye-opening. And just another thing that he said with that that I really liked was he gave the quote of "Seek first to understand, rather than be understood." And I just really like that because so many times I expect people to understand me instead of trying to understand them first. And so that just went along with with the gifts. And then also being faithful in the little things, that was something that was stressed a lot. And so, yeah, that's something I definitely am trying to be intentional with as I come home, or as I came home. And then Mighty Men of God by Dathan Stoltzfus was probably my favorite class of the whole, 6 weeks. Dathan was a really, really good teacher. And yeah, I don't know. He just really brought out a lot of things that I saw in my own life that I needed to step up and be a man. And then, like Kyle said, we read from a book called The Tender Warrior. And so it was really good to see how we need to be warriors, but we also need to be tender as men. And then, yeah, it was just a really good class. And one day, as an exercise, he drew a cross up on the board, and he gave anybody who was in the class an opportunity to go up and write something that we wanted to put on the cross. And so by the end, everybody had gone up and written either one thing or multiple things. And I don't know, it was just a very real example of us consciously putting our sin, our things that we struggle with, on the cross and giving them to Jesus. And yeah, it was just really powerful. So yeah, those were probably my favorite classes. And something really cool about CBS is the relationships that you form. First of all, even with just like the teachers, I think the 1 week I had several conversations with one teacher in particular after class, and it just really blessed me. And just like the things that they can teach you and the things that you can talk about them with, they have so much wisdom, they know so many things. And yeah, they really, really, really impacted me. Also the deans, especially the guy deans, but also the girl deans. The guy deans this year were Bradley Lapp and Darius Hostetler. And it was just, I don't know, it was so good to have, I think Bradley is 24 and Darius is 23. And so it was really good to have guys there to talk to who weren't that much older than you, but also have gone through more life than you. And yeah, just know what you're going through, and can understand and give you advice and just be your friend. And then also just the relationships that you form with the other students there. It's so good to, just find people that you can relate to. And I think there's a lot of relationships that are going to last my whole life, of people that I met there. And then probably some of like just the really cool experiences, kind of like what Brielle was talking about, the power of prayer. There was a lot of things that we prayed for, and I don't know, it's just that place is really powerful, and there's so much going on there that we can't see. And I think the one time one of the girl deans was sick, and it was right after they had prayed about something, and then they didn't pray for it. They didn't pray for her until later, and right when they prayed for her, she felt better. And I don't remember the whole story, but it was definitely something that was not just normal. It was definitely something that was spiritual. Also, chorus was probably basically my favorite time of the day. First term it was Cliff, and then second term it was Wendell. Cliff did so well with giving us ways to turn our heart, to be a heart of worship, and he did really well with picking the songs. And there was 2 songs that really, really blessed me. The first one, and I think everybody should go listen to them. The first one is Goodness of God. And a line in there, it says, "All my life you have been faithful. and yeah, it was just a really good reminder to me that no matter what I go through and no matter what happens to me, God is faithful all my life. And uh, also, well done. Um, it talks about what will it be like when we see Jesus face to face. And yeah, it was just really powerful for me to long to hear the words that Jesus is going to say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Welcome to the place where you belong." Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And it was, yeah, just a really, really good time for me. And I feel like I've, yeah, been given the tools over the past 2 years of going to CBS to really change my life. And that's the thing I was going to say is it really is life changing if you let it. Like it will impact you. You can't go there and not come out of it at least a different person for a while. But if you stick with it, it will change your life. Yeah, I guess forever. Um, but yeah, that's all I have, or all we have, I guess. If you have any questions or want to see pictures or yeah, anything, you come ask us. And also, thank you for the box and all the boxes and all the snacks you guys sent while we were there. That was really it's really special to get like yeah things from back home. Um, but yeah, are there any prayer requests? It was B.R. Jones. Hmm? Yeah. Lori Kaufman. The Lord for healing for Cohen and just being near Joe and Janelle. That our witness in the community could be strengthened. The elderly would just say this is something that I thought a lot about while I was at CBS. I think we should all pray that we can um, continue or start or yeah, just be very intentional with our lives, make everything that we do count, and yeah, just live for the Lord very intentionally. Pray for Jerry and his mom and dad as they fly to Belize. Okay. I think it's a little late, so we can just stay over here. So if I could have 2 volunteers to pray, and then I'll close and just pray for as